Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
Check 1, 2.
English channel check 1, 2. All right, thumbs up. Going to French. And English on the second console. Perfect.
Check 1, 2.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask members of council to take their seat, and members of the public, on va commencer la réunion dans...
We will be starting in a minute.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Ottawa City Council meeting of the 13th of May, 2015. I'm very pleased to have with us in the gallery members of the Bells Corners United Church Men's Group with us. Thank you very much for visiting us. And we may have some nurses from a Hamilton reunion that are going to be coming down at some point as well. So for those who are able to, please stand for a moment of reflection and remain standing for the national anthem. We got a little mixed up there. I'll ask Councillor Moffat to thank our guests and introduce them.
You may have jumped the gun. normally I introduce you and then you sing. But what's okay. We'll get you next time. So just to let everyone know, this is the Glee Club from South Carleton High School. South Carleton has commonly been referred to in the city as the most historically significant high school in the OCDSB, primarily because I went there. And this Glee Club has been performing now for 6 years, and they were first founded by James McIntyre, who's leading them here today, and have played a range of venues. They played Centrepoint Theatre here in Ottawa. They've also played in Toronto at the Sony Centre and the Centre of Arts in Toronto. Most recently, just last month, they were playing at the Show Choir Canada's National Championships, and they performed music from Sia, Hosier, and Sarah Bareilles. It's actually quite a good performance. You can watch it on YouTube. Do a little Google search for Storm Surge. But I appreciate them being here today and coming all the way from all over. I know that a bunch of them live in Stittsville, Warwick, Shad Kadri. I didn't hold that against them. I let them come anyways. It's one of the challenges I have to work out with the OCDSB to make sure all the people at South Carleton are actually from Rideau Goulburn. It's very frustrating with this whole Stittsville stuff, I tell you. But nonetheless, I appreciate you being here today, and thank you for a wonderful performance.
So if we could remain standing for a moment of personal reflection, un moment de réflexion. Merci. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to invite Dan McCarthy to the podium for this meeting's Mayor's City Builder Award presentation. Dan, if you could come forward, along with Dan's councillor, Jean Cloutier, to join us as well. J'invite aussi son conseiller, Monsieur Jean Cloutier.
I'd like to invite his councillor, Jean Cloutier, to join us.
For over 20 years, Mr. McCarthy has been fostering leadership, confidence, and skill development in our city's youth through Scouts Canada. Robert Baden-Powell, the founder of the modern scouting movement, was quoted as saying, "Always leave the campsite in better shape than you found it." Through instilling this sentiment to generations of youth, Mr. McCarthy has done just that. C'est exactement ce que M. McCarthy a fait en...
Through instilling this sentiment to generations of youth, Mr. McCarthy has done just that.
Canada for over 100 years, offering programming to youth to experience, challenge themselves, and grow through skill development. Over the past 20 years, Mr. McCarthy has been a leader of Beaver, Cub, Scout, and Venturer troops with the 101st Ottawa Scouting Group at St. Aidan's Church in Elmville Acres, as well as a group commissioner for 13 years. Dan also leads the 101st Group in providing support to various local community services through initiatives such as organizing a Christmas appeal for those members of the community in need, with the Scouts gathering the donations. Through his outstanding dedication, leadership, and unwavering commitment to youth development, Dan is looked to as a mentor not only by the youth participants, but fellow troop leaders. In addition to leading his various troops, Dan is a special advisor to the Venturer Company, mentoring teens throughout a challenging period in their lives. Mr. McCarthy was also instrumental in applying for and subsequently being selected to receive an $8,900 Ontario Trillium grant. Il a joué un rôle clé.
Mr. McCarthy was also instrumental in applying for and subsequently being selected to receive an $8,900 Ontario Trillium Foundation grant.
State camping equipment and tents, to buy equipment for backpacking, canoeing, and snowshoeing, and to subsidize training for leaders as well as 15 venturers. For your outstanding contributions to the Scout Canada movement and the residents of Ottawa, I'm very pleased to be joined by your councillor, Jean Cloutier, to present this meeting's Mayor's City Builder Award. Thank you for all you do in the community, Dan. Come on up over here.
Mayor Watson, Councillor Cloutier, councillors, I'd just like to tell you how honored I am to be recognized in this way. It's a little awkward standing up here by myself because if there is a team sport, scouting truly is it. You can't do it by yourself. You do it with all your other leaders, your group committee members, your committed parents, and the people that help out at all the camps. And, of course, we do it with the youth. And the youth aren't part of the program. We say in scouting they are the program. And I've had a tremendous opportunity over 20 years to work with really outstanding leaders and, frankly, an outstanding group of young people through the St. Aidan's Scouting Group. This really is a tremendous honor as well because Ottawa, as you all know, is such a wonderful place to live. It's a beautiful city full of wonderful people. And my wife Cindy and I moved to Ottawa in 1987. Our plan was to stay for 2 years, enjoy skating on the canal, your warm early spring weather, and then head back to Halifax and fell in love with the place, and we've never left. And Ottawa's home now and home to our family, and it's just an outstanding place to live and to grow. And I really see this award as an award to our scouting group, to scouting in general, and a reflection of the great group of kids we have in the program, because without them in the program and their interest and their dedication and commitment to all the things we do in scouting, I wouldn't have stayed in it for the period that I did. So thank you very much.
Roll call, please, Madam Deputy Clerk.
Conseiller Manette.
Présent.
Councillor Middick.
Présent.
Councillor Harder?
Here.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Present.
Councillor El-Shantiri?
Present.
Councillor Caudry?
Present.
Councillor Taylor?
Here.
Councillor Shirelli?
Here.
Councillor Eglai?
Here.
Councillor Deans?
Here.
Councillor Tierney?
Present.
Conseiller Fleury? Councillor Nussbaum?
Here.
Councillor McKenney?
Present.
Councillor Leeper?
Present.
Councillor Brockington?
Here.
Councillor Chernyshenko? Conseiller Cloutier?
Present.
Conseiller Blais?
Present.
Councillor Drews?
Here.
Councillor Moffat?
Here.
Councillor Kakish?
Present.
Councillor Hubley?
Here.
Mayor Watson?
Here.
Le quorum est 10, Mr. le Maire.
Merci. Confirmation of minutes, adoption de procès verbaux for the meeting of April 29th, 2015. Carried. A declaration of interests, including those originally arising from prior meetings. Déclaration de conflit d'intérêt. Received none. Communications as presented. Regrets. Councillors Fleury and Chernyshenko advise they will be absent from the council meeting of May 13th, 2015 due to city business. Motion to introduce reports. Motion portant présentation de rapport. Councillor Tierney and El-Shantiri, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the report from the City Clerk and Solicitor entitled Status Update Council Inquiries and Motions for the period ending the 8th of May 2015, Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee Report 4, Financial and Economic Development Committee Report 3A and 4, Planning Committee Report 6, and Transportation Committee Report 4 be received and considered.
Carried. Adopté. First report is from the City Clerk and Solicitor. Greffier Municipal, status update, council inquiries and motions for the period ending May 8th. Rapport de situation terminant le 8 Mai 2015. Received. Committee reports, Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee Report number 4, rapport numéro 4 de Comité de l'Agriculture, Land Evaluation and Area Review Update, and the Ottawa Soils Mapping Project. Carried. Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 3A, rapport numéro 3A du Comité des Finances et de Développement économique, semi-annual performance report to Council Q2 2014 and Q3 2014, rapport le deuxième et troisième trimestre de 2014, received. Finance and Economic Development Committee Report number 4, Purchasing Year in Review. Councillor Leeper had a point.
Thank you. With respect to this report, on page 40, there's a note that the supply branch reviews payments without reference to ensure the purchases are in compliance with the purchasing bylaw. I'm interested in getting a little bit more color with respect to how proactive are we in reviewing those payments? Are we capturing all of them? Is it a sample that we're looking at? I had a brief conversation this morning, but could you give me some color on how we're reviewing those and how successful we're being at catching anything that may not be in compliance?
So to the councillor through the mayor, we review every transaction and we review them on a quarterly basis. We used to do it at the end of the year. We're now doing it quarterly so that we can pick up on any trends or any infractions that we can correct later into the year. So it's been very successful. As the report says, there were only 3 violations, which is very low considering the number of transactions that go through as a PWR. And the departments are very open to our suggestions as to how they can bring future purchases within the purchasing bylaw.
So every single one of those PWRs is reviewed then just to make sure that it's in compliance?
That's correct.
It's good news. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Leeper. On the purchasing year in review, received. Economic Development Strategy Update 2015-2018, mise à jour de la stratégie de développement économique 2015 à 2018. You want to hold that, Councillor Brockington? Celebrations Ottawa Inc., Board of Directors and Service Agreement, Célébration Ottawa Inc., Conseil d'administration. question. We'll come back to that then. Is it a brief question or? Okay, go ahead.
We've had, I believe, 4 City of Ottawa, the mayor, the 2 councillors, and the Director of Economic Development who have been invited to join the Board of Celebrations Ottawa. Do we have a notion of how many other board members there will be?
We do know that. It's, I think it's sad, help me out here, 8 or 9 total. Guy Laflamme and Saad Bashir.
Yes, we are looking at an overall board of about 10 to 11 people.
So we'll have some fairly significant representation then, but not necessarily controlling.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
On the report, carried. Item number 7, Freeman Pedestrian Bridge over Rideau Street, Passerelle Piétonnière, Freeman, au-dessus de la rue Rideau. Carried.
Carried.
Item number 8, Zoning Bylaw Amendment 192, 196, Bronson Avenue and 31 Cambridge Street North. Modification au règlement de zonage 192 et 196 Avenue Bronson et 31 rue Cambridge Nord. Carried. Item number 9 from the Transportation Committee Report number 4, Rapport numéro 4 du Comité des Transports, Parking Services Branch Annual Report, Rapport annuel de 2014 de la Service de Stationnement, received. Item number 10, Parking Services 2015 Business Plan, Plan d'affaires de 2015 au Service de Stationnement, carried. Item number 11, Right Bike Share Program on Road Allowances, Motion, Présence de bicyclettes de programme Right Bike sur les emprises routières, Motion, carried, adopté. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the bulk consent agenda that's presented before us? On the bulk consent agenda is presented, carried. We'll go back to Economic Development Strategy Update 2015 to 2018. I want to thank Mr. Bashir for a very thorough overview and presentation of a solid document at FEDCO, and Councillor Brockington has a question. I think Councillor Leeper, your mic is on.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning. I too have read the report. It's quite lengthy, and I appreciate the content. Just a few questions for my better understanding. Is the mandate of this organization simply to focus on the business community, or is there any liaison work, focus, meetings with the federal government, which is the main employer in the city, talking about the vision, the employment vision for the federal government in Ottawa, and of course the positive benefits of that sector in Ottawa?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, every initiative that we pursue, we try to make sure that the outcome is going to be employment growth, diversification of the economy. And of course, when you talk about employment growth... Can you speak
up, Mr. Bashir? It's very hard to hear you.
When you talk about employment growth, federal government, of course, being the biggest employer, is on our radar all the time. So there are many projects in our strategy, many initiatives within Invest Ottawa's mandate that require quite a big collaboration with the federal government on a whole number of projects. So we work very closely with them, not on everything, but wherever it makes sense to involve our federal partners.
Right. Anything else on the economic development? Oh, sorry.
There we go. Okay. So thank you for that. On page 57 of your report, you talk about performance measurement and how you'll reflect on the success of the various pillars. You reference an updated strategy document. Has that been produced, or is that something that will be produced that will contain information about how you've measured the success of the pillars?
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Mayor, what we do, Councillor, is at the end of every year come back to Council and give a status update on what have we been up to that particular year and what are we planning to do in the next 12 months. As part of that report, we provide some detailed performance measurement metrics in terms of how you can determine if what we are doing is achieving its intended outcomes. So those reports will be published at the end of every year, like we have been doing in the last term of Council.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Shirelli, please.
Worship, just following up on the first question from Councillor Brockington.
Now, I don't want to point out that your constituents are leaving just as you start to talk. But don't take it personally, but carry on.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, if we go back to Oakry and the predecessor to Invest Ottawa and this, I just want to make sure that you're still focusing on the primary objective, which is to fill out the non-governmental parts of our economic development.
Right.
If you could just speak to that.
Yes, and one of the issues with Oakry that we fixed with Invest Ottawa was giving them very much a lot of focus in terms of which sectors they go after. So there are certain sectors within the private world that they go after, such as clean tech and wireless and telecom. So those, of course, are the bread and butter of Invest Ottawa. When I was answering the previous question, what I meant there was that there are many projects, many initiatives where we want the provincial and federal partners to be involved in order to help the private sector. So in those cases, we make sure that the federal partners are at the table.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anything else to Mr. Bashir on the economic development strategy? On the report as presented? Carried? Carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Bashir and your team. Motion to adopt reports. Motion portant adoption des rapports. Conseiller Tierney et El Shantiri, s'il vous plaît.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the report from the City Clerk and Solicitor entitled The Status Update, Council Inquiries and Motions for the period ending 8th of May 2015, Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee, Report Number 4, Finance and Economic Development Committee, Report 3A and 4, Planning Committee, Report 6, and Transportation Committee, Report 4, be received and adopted as amended.
Adopté. Carried. Motions of which notice have been previously given. Motion dont avis a été donné entièrement. Councillor Egli, seconded by Councillor Blais. Councillor Egli, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As introduced last council meeting, this is a motion to allow all the members of council to advance up to $10,000 out of their constituency services budget for traffic calming initiatives, and to be reimbursed if and when we pass the separate ward traffic calming funds through the SI process. This goes back to an earlier practice where we would routinely pay for things like this through that budget, a constituency services budget. But more importantly, because of the timeline on the SIs, this allows us to get to work on those traffic calming issues in our wards sooner by freeing up some cash to allow staff to go ahead and do things such as purchasing of signage, speed boards, painting of on the road of speed limits or what have you. So it just allows us to get on top of the traffic issues that may be in our wards. So that's it in a nutshell, and I would hope that my colleagues are able to support that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor. It's a sensible idea. On the motion, we have Councillor Chiarelli.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to point out to people who may be listening at home that $10,000 does not buy a lot of traffic calming. You may be able to get one speed bump out of that. So I'm not inviting a raft of requests today if we approve this. This is just to deal with things that we're in the process of handling at the present moment.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Chiarelli. On the motion, carried. Adopté. Thank you. Next is a motion we had previous notice of from Councillor Middick, seconded by Councillor Kakish. Councillor Middick, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as we know, rates of physical activity seem to be dropping in Canada. This morning, when I was at the gym at 5, I noticed the New Year's resolution folks had died off a little bit. And we have some great facilities here in Ottawa that we should encourage our citizens to use. So I think Therefore, be it resolved that to encourage participation and promotion of physical activity in Ottawa, we acknowledge National Health and Fitness Day on June 6, 2015, and also, therefore, be it further resolved that for the day of June 6th, as a step to increase participation and enhance the health of all our residents, the city offered 2-for-1 swimming at all 20 city-operated swimming pools and 2-for-1 at all 17 city-operated weight and cardio rooms in recognition of the 2015 National Health and Fitness Day.
And I would encourage members of council through your Twitter accounts and Facebook and own websites to encourage this, because we want to see those numbers go up, because it's a good deal for residents and their families. So thank you, Councillor Middick, for that. Councillor El Shantiri, please.
Just a quick question, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to my colleague for bringing this motion over. Has staff priced what would be the cost of such a program?
Yeah, Mr. Shank, you can give us that. And we did do this, I believe, last year as well, if I'm not mistaken.
That's it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is, I believe, the third or fourth year that we do this. Very weather dependent in terms of the uptake. If it's nice and sunny early in June, then getting people into the buildings is a little harder. Generally in the $2,000 to $3,000 range in terms of discounted revenue that we would have otherwise brought in. Something in that ballpark.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Shantiri. Les autres commentaires?
Other comments?
Councillor Minnick, seconded by Councillor Kakish. Carried. Adopté. Thank you. Motions requiring suspension of the rules of procedure. Motion exigeant la suspension des règles de procédure. Are there any motions requiring suspension? Clerk? No. Notices of motion for consideration at subsequent meeting. Avis de motion pour examen en réunion subséquente. Councillor Nussbaum, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a motion that I am putting forward, seconded by Councillor McKenney, whereas the City of Ottawa appreciates the importance of the Government of Canada's long-term vision and plan for the parliamentary precinct and judicial precinct to the City of Ottawa, the National Capital Region, and the country, and whereas the plan speaks to the importance of completing the judicial triad with the future construction of a federal court judicial building on Wellington Street, part of Confederation Boulevard, complementing the parliamentary triad along Ottawa's ceremonial route, and whereas the City of Ottawa joins others in expressing concern that the proposed location for the memorial to the victims of communism will prevent the completion of the judicial triad and violate the guiding principles of the plan, particularly those of symbolic primacy and heritage value. Therefore, be it resolved that City Council, through the Mayor, formally request that the Government of Canada relocate the proposed memorial to the victims of communism to a site that conserves the integrity of the judicial precinct in the Government of Canada's long-term vision and plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So that will be debated at a subsequent meeting. Any other notices of motion for consideration at subsequent meetings? Madam Clerk? None? Okay. Motion to introduce bylaws. Motion portant présentation de règlement. Councillors Tierney and El Shantiri, please.
That the bylaws listed in the agenda under the motions to introduce bylaws, first and second readings be read, and 3 readings be read and passed.
On the motion, carried. Confirmation bylaw, please, Councillor Tierney.
That the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting of the 13th of May, 2015.
Carried. I'd ask at this point that Councillor Harder give us an update. As you know, Councillor Harder was asked by me to be the liaison with the families of those killed during the tragic bus train crash, and we had approved funding in the budget for a memorial in honor of those lost lives. Councillor Harder, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and Council will recall on September the 18th, 2013, a tragedy occurred in Barrhaven in our city. And it had a profound impact on all residents everywhere throughout the city. And so in this last budget, Council approved an amount of money to develop a memorial. We're calling it Memorial Park. I'm going to ask Matt to put it up on the screen, please. First of all, we had to find a location, and right from the start I had one in mind, and it has ended up being the location. It is at the Fallowfield Park and Ride. It is in an area to the closest possible to where the tragedy occurred. It has natural screening already with the hedgerow you see at the top. The transitway itself is on the north side of that existing hedgerow. You'll see that there is an existing concrete pathway that connects the parking lot 2 to parking lot 3, so there's lots of parking there. There is light there. And it is a place where we can develop that approach, and we have, as the Mayor said, Kevin Wary, who is our excellent planner in parks, probably has worked with many of you, has been working hand in hand with the Mayor and I on this, with the families. And a couple of concepts were developed, and this is the one that the families agree on, as do the Mayor and I. It's called Bosquet. If you're familiar at all with shady places that they have in Europe and that, where there's trees, and it's a place for a gathering space for reflection and contemplation. That's the kind of feel that it will have. It's large enough to accommodate a good number of members, of families and friends, etc. It was important to be located at this at Fallowfield, I thought, from the start, and the families agree with that. They've had occasion to want to be close, and as have other people on that were involved in the tragedy that day. And some of the friends don't have their licenses. They use the OC services always, so that has been part of the thinking as well. We are going to call it a park within OC space, because it will be maintained then on an ongoing basis as a park would. So I wanted to show this to you all today, to give you a sense of where we're going. Also to so that when people start to see the grading being done and trees being planted, they won't be wondering why that is. We're looking to have an official opening likely in October, just after the second anniversary of the tragedy. And there will be other components which are not included in this that we're working on including, that will be very special. I think it's going to be a place that will be well used, and that certainly will provide comfort and quiet contemplation to many people, to anyone who wants to go there. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I want to thank Councillor Harder on all our behalf, because she has had the delicate job of liaising with the family members, and has done such a wonderful job keeping them informed. And I thank you very much, Councillor, for all of your efforts. I know it's been a difficult issue for you to deal with and for your constituents, so I thank you very much for the sensitivity that you've brought to this project. Any written inquiries, Madam Deputy Clerk? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Tierney, please.
That the proceedings of the City Council meeting of the 13th of May 2015 be adjourned.
Carried. I just remind members of Council and members of the public and staff, there is a food truck rally that will take place in Marion Dewar Plaza, where a portion of the proceeds go to the Ottawa Food Bank. And Councillor Deans will be introducing some of the bands that you will hear on the 311 system when you're on hold. So you get to hear, I think, 3 bands out at Marion Dewar Plaza that will take place during the lunch hours. So I encourage members of public who may be watching this, if you'd like to come down and support the food bank and see and hear some great local musicians, you're more than welcome. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Merci.